Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Talks series at Serendipity Arts Festival. As many of you are aware, SAF is one of South Asia's largest multidisciplinary festivals that brings together performative, visual, and culinary practices from India and beyond. We're excited about today's discussion in partnership with the Voice of Fashion, titled The Greenwashing Narrative, moderated by Shefali Vasudev, editor-in-chief of the Voice of Fashion. This panel will delve into the pressing issues surrounding sustainability, consumer disinformation, and the alarming reality of green crimes within the fashion industry. Joining Shefali for this critical conversation are distinguished voices leading the charge towards meaningful change. We have Apurva Kothari, founder No Nasties, India's first fair trade licensed brand offering organic, vegan, and carbon negative clothing. Apurva's work sets a benchmark for ethical production and environmental accountability. Also on the panel is Anjali Patel Mehta, founder and CEO of Studio Veranda, a global conscious luxury brand celebrated for its innovative sustainability practices and commitment to mindful luxury. We are also pleased to welcome Sanjeev Khandelwal, founder of Sensible Earth, an incubator dedicated to sustainability initiatives and reforestation programs in Goa. Sanjeev's work focuses on fostering grassroots solutions for environmental regeneration. Rounding out the discussion is Sarita Karandikar, founder of 9 Lives, a brand championing sustainable fashion by creatively repurposing materials, proving that style and environmental responsibility can coexist. Bringing a poetic touch to this thought-provoking session is Anupama Dayal with a special poetry reading that beautifully merges creativity with sustainability. This promises to be an engaging, insightful, and forward-thinking conversation on the challenges and opportunities in fostering a more sustainable fashion future. Over to you, Shefali.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's evening-ish. I was just checking if 4 p.m. is evening or afternoon. I just want to lay the context very quickly. Why should we speak of greenwashing instead of sustainability? Greenwashing is a direct crime. It's manipulation that is conscious, it's deliberate. It isn't just incidental when you are looking at advertising or campaigns or promotions that promise sustainable practices but barely get there. Because getting there is a set of deliverables that are scientific, that are data-based, that are not just a toss of words or a chess play or a dice throw between sustainable is organic, is eco-friendly, is eco-positive, is natural, is Ayurvedic, and so it's ethical and so it's correct and all that. That territory is okay. But that territory then subverts and tweaks the discussion towards thinking, is that all I have to do? Do I have to just ring the bell in the green deity's mandir every morning or mera kaam ho gaya? It's not that, it's hard work. The fact that a number of global brands have been caught out, called out for greenwashing is because it decimates sustainability every time a greenwashing narrative or dark PR. I argued for dark PR in one of my articles. The Voice of Fashion frequently publishes content telling the readers how to distinguish the wheat from the chaff. This is what we are doing here today. Why a certain kind of person is what I'm going to invite my panelists to it. I believe that not everybody is a sustainability soldier or champion. Not everybody can wash up and show up on this shore. So you have to be clear what you're doing. It's like saying, I'm going to enlist myself as a soldier for a war, and then I will do what war requires me to do. Why she also introduced a poetry session is because we thought that talk panels and these discourses can get a little tedious and tiring, and to alert you, the audiences, into the finer aspects of why, as the Australian filmmaker Damon Andrew called it, he says nature is our kin. Nature is the closest I have in this world. So we must reach out to nature through poetry, through renditions that are not just talk, and that's why Anupama Dayal will recite passages. One we chose from The Nutmeg's Curse by Amitav Ghosh, and one poetry from Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass, as many of you would know. Before that, let me start here. Thank you for joining this panel, Apurva, Anjali, Sanjeev, Sarita. Let me ask Apurva first. Why is No Nasties not nasty? Why did you sign up for it?
No one's asked me that before, actually. And after 15 years of running No Nasties, I wonder myself as well, why did I sign up for this? So actually, sitting here, my first thought was of like a strong feeling of imposter syndrome. You know, my background's not in fashion. I'm actually a software engineer. And some point in my career, I just reached a point where I was like, this is not making sense. I'm just earning more money, spending more money, but there's no purpose itself. And the turning point for my life was when I came across the issue of farmer suicides in cotton farming in India, which is still prevalent and a huge issue. And after years of researching it, meeting farmer groups, realized that on the ground, they knew what to do. But there wasn't enough consumer awareness. There wasn't enough consumer action or options. And that's how No Nasties was created. It's kind of like a bridge between urban India and rural Bharat to say that we're going to use the brand to communicate to customers that their problem exists, but also offer a solution just by way of our clothes. So we're not a fashion brand. We're a social and environmental cause that is manifested into a fashion brand that you see. And that's why we are able to do all of the things, because we can keep pushing, because our DNA is sustainability and consciousness. So that's why we're organic, fair trade, vegan, carbon negative, and been doing it for a long time.
So fashion is not our immediate romance here. We are talking of larger issues, and some of them will intersect and collide into fashion. But Anjali, coming to you, who is this person behind Veranda? Why did you persist and pursue certification, and why do you think you need to be credible in the market?
Like Apurva said, I think I also am facing a bit of imposter syndrome. I was an economics major and I spent about 10 years on Wall Street, and I was married into a family of garment exporters. I am still married into the same family, but I saw a lot around me that was not necessarily how maybe I would do things, and I watched a movie with Bandana many years ago, The True Cost, and she said, come and see this, you might like this, like to know what's going on in fashion. And I think from that day on, I when I left banking, I started just actually making some clothes for myself out of the excess sampling waste in the factory, and just trying different collections, really finding myself. So I think a few years went by just making a collection of what I saw and just trying to DIY things myself. But what I really wanted to do when I saw what was around me is spread a bit of joy. I think fashion sometimes gets very serious. I don't take it very seriously. I like telling stories of nature, art, architecture, travel, and things that inspire me through print and pattern on really soft fabrications. So I was kind of on a mission to find soft, conscious fabrications. My first collection was mull, actually, of khadi mull. And I ran into a supply problem working with a cluster in Bihar. And I said, okay, surely there has to be a sustainable source. And when I say sustainable, I don't mean to use it lightly. There has to be some other certified source that I can procure fabric from if I want to make more pieces. And this is actually, 10 years on, I got to know Positive Luxury in 2017, and they were finding their feet about what they were also trying to work with brands, and they've evolved into an independent agency of sustainability experts internationally. And since we retail internationally, I said, whatever we're doing, whatever efforts we're making to be consciously produce to take care of our people. So I look at it actually in an ESG framework. I look at it a bit differently. There's so much talk on sustainability. Honestly, I was getting a bit annoyed, and I said, let's put our money where our mouth is and volunteer for this data-backed assessment. We failed it the first time. We got 44%. We're up to 66 now. It's out of a score out of 100, and you keep getting reassessed every 2 years. And it's on these several frameworks. So it's not just material sustainability. It is not, it's an entire framework of fair trade. Are you paying your people correctly? Are you producing correctly? Are you paying your PF? Are you putting back into the environment? Are you putting back into society? So we look at it as a CSR
I
framework
was
as well.
actually going to come back
Very
to ask
circular.
you that.
And we're zero
because
waste completely.
Zero waste.
So-
And we should, deeper into the panel, we should discuss what does it take. So
It takes
it takes
It
yes.
takes your entire soul. I think if you commit to this, that's kind of, it's a single vision, and you do everything in your creative power. So for me, of course, I want to create beautiful clothes, but the choices for us, Apurva will agree, are limited to create what we'd like to create, given the resources that we'd like to use.
Okay.
So you have to give up a little bit to go down this path, and you have to be kind of a little crazy to be committed to the purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily, what could I say, convinced about the poverty narrative so much of this, because there is heft. Both of you having imposter syndromes is a great idea, because we need engineers and thinkers and mathematicians and philosophers to get into this debate. It's not fashion's prerogative only. But coming to you, Sanjeevan, you're looking rather ponderous, and I hope if you do have a syndrome, it's not the imposters. So, why are you with Sensible Earth? Let me put it as simplistically as that.
Well, I am an imposter, actually, so I don't have the syndrome. When the very first venture in my life was a plastic manufacturing company, multi-layer plastic. And the second venture we funded was a polyester fiber manufacturing company. Life has come around with one of our campaigns, which is Maka Naka Plastic. Long story, but when Sensible Earth kind of started emerging, we were thinking names, and we were very clear that we did not want to call it Sustainable Earth. We did not want to use the word sustainability in any way at all, because sustainability is extremely transient. And I hope that someday soon this word will become irrelevant. What's important is for us to be sensible. And if we are sensible, if you look at anything, right from our nutrition to the way we live, our wellness, our relationships, so long as we're sensible, we will always be sustainable. So that's the brief history behind Sensible Earth. I'm also a capitalist, by the way. So I'm a reformed capitalist. I believe that any change that we bring about today needs to be holistic, and money is a wonderful thing. Lakshmi is the very core of our existence, so long as we understand it and we respect it. So we started looking at what is our existence on this planet, and we started Sensible Earth with a question rather than a mission, vision, goal. That's how we always funded our startups and built our startups. This was really a question, and we still are with that question, is how may we be able to make our existence on this planet to be resource positive, meaning exactly like a bank account. Exactly. Every day we're consuming. We've all burned carbon footprint of different types coming here today. Right now we're using lots of energy. At the end of the day, when we go to bed, what have I done to add on to the resources of the planet? We want to leave this world with jewelry, property, money for the next generation. But what are we doing with the planet? And I think that's the question that we're working with, and we can go more into details about that later.
I think I made a mistake of being too schoolmarmish, coming one person at a time, how they are seated, but now I have to come to Sarita, and then I'll see how the toss works. So 9 lives. Why did you land up trying to be a zero waste brand, and it's a 2-year-old brand, which means you rethought some things, you gave up something to do this? Why this?
Thank you. So no imposter, first of all. Okay, very much have been, like my brand being called 9 Lives, have done many things to get here. I've been a designer, I've been a theatre stylist for children's theatre, I've been an academician, I've worked at Amazon with e-commerce, I've been into marketing, I'm an artist, I'm a potter. So I do lots of things, and finally in that phase of life right now to reflect and say, what next? None of those career opportunities or phases were planned. They happened to me. And I chose to reinvent myself when opportunities arose. And I think that's my personality trait, which automatically brings me to a name like 9 Lives that says reinvent yourself each time. And because the brand's philosophy is based on the fact that everything, not just everyone, everything deserves a second chance. And given where we are, like Sanjeev just said, we ourselves are sitting on a limited edition home, our planet. There is, if we don't do something, however small it may be, I think it goes in that direction of collective consciousness, right? To say, this is my bit that I've done. And what we do today is we source from wherever possible. We'll talk about that later. But the whole ethos is, for example, the necklace that I'm wearing today is a necklace of stories. There is a earring here which I got from my first salary. There is a button there that came off from a favorite shirt. There is a battery here that the watch won't work. There is a 5 paise coin that doesn't exist. So every story is unique. Every necklace is a limited edition because the waste goes away and there's only that much. So having said that, yeah, it is really something that I'm committed to at this point in time, and I'm taking it one day at a time. New chances, new beginnings, new stories.
I'm going to invite panelists to be brief so that we can bring in a lot more dynamism to this debate, and I'll come to Anjali before going to Apurva. As we were worried in the pre-panel discussion, we'll end up talking about sustainability. We need to talk about greenwashing so that we all know what is greenwashing. Anjali, what would you say is greenwashing?
So this is a loaded question. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer this, but according to me, greenwashing is making claims. You say what you do, and if you're not doing what you say, simply that's greenwashing. You're just fooling the customer just because the customer doesn't know any better. And messaging, I think, is the most important thing a brand can do. Correct messaging to say, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I don't do, this is where I want to be, and this is how I'd like to get there. But I think just being transparent and opening up for me, it's about opening up our supply chain, opening up our books. I was a trader, and I think what Sanjeev said, we were chatting about this earlier, is I look at life in general as net. I was a trader, so at the end of the day, you balance the books and say, okay, net, have I made any money? Have I lost any money? You'd kind of like to be flat or positive. And that's, I'm saying, you don't want to be negative, but what I'm saying at the very baseline, you don't want to lose money, so you don't want to actually add a net negative effect to the planet. So I think the way we look at Veranda is we're taking all these different initiatives, whether it's being zero waste, recycling, making fuel bricklets with the things that don't work. We have a project in Ranthambore. We have an education project. We have 220 Mogya tribals we're educating there. We've set up a sewing project. Everything is pretty much upcycled. It's a full-time job actually doing this. And we work with, so my goal is to work with responsible production to control the narrative that we can control. Because I think one of the biggest problems of greenwashing is that is the messaging, and as Sanjeev and I were talking earlier, we don't control the entire supply chain. So where you control, what you can control, if you can craft that narrative and really be true to yourself and just open up your books to the world and not be afraid of kind of failing. I think a lot of us as brands get worried, oh, what will somebody think, log kya kahenge, kind of to drop that and say, okay, this is my mission, this is where I am, this is where I like to be. So greenwashing for me is just saying it like it is and being transparent.
Apurva,
Yep.
have you been greenwashed? It's also called greenwashing. green sheen, green crimes. Have you been greenwashed in your life, and how do you recount that experience?
Yeah, just working in our industry as well. There are a lot of people who will make claims. You really have to dig deep. It takes a lot of effort to really find authentic partners. We've met people who are like, "Oh, you want organic? Sure. That last lot is organic. I can get you the certification." I'm like, no, that's not how we want to work. We really want to work with people who are authentic. We try and start from the farm and go upwards from there. But it's disheartening to see what is going on, and it's so demanding from the customer point of view to know who's saying the truth and who's not. I hate the fact that there's greenwashing in the industry. I've been very vocal and upset about it all these years. But preparing for this panel, I actually had a different take on it. 15 years ago, we started known as these to say we want to create a consumer movement for sustainability in India. The fact that greenwashing exists means it's working.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
They are forced to talk the talk at this point. They might not be walking the talk.
Yeah.
But because consumers are demanding it,
Yeah.
we're here, right? It's hitting their bottom lines. They would do it if it didn't affect their finances, but it's expensive. And brands like us who are trying to do good have to pay to prove that we are good. Whereas the bad guys are running away with
Yeah, so
the
as
bottom
somebody
line.
would say, if there is a jewel, there will be a thief. And so we are trying to identify the theft because there are jewels and somebody is robbing it. However, I do want to ask that, is something about policy not having stringent measures, nobody is checking, there is no ombudsman, there's no industry, the fashion weeks do not worry about even having a certain kind of barrier for those who are not sustainable to show on Sustainability Day. And so there's a whole lot of acceptance of the below normal that's going on. Do you think policy mandates will help?
I don't think so. I mean, if you look at just Europe, I was going through some of the certifications this morning, and I have a list of, I won't bore you here, but there's a list of about 15 top certifications in the world that exist. And just out of, you have the EU Eco Labs and which is in EU, and you have the Eco Fabric, which is Germany. You can see the disconnection between the largest stakeholder in EU having their own certification and not following the EU certification. I'm going to come to this in a second and take up from what Apurva is saying, is that I love greenwashing. I think greenwashing is fantastic. It starts the conversation. So in sustainability, what we've learned is you need to have a conversation. You need talkers. And those talkers then hopefully, with good conversations, such as these and more, can then move on to being seekers. And that's where you're also seeking today to see what sort of certifications, how do I really do this, what works, and then eventually to doers. So this is the path that we see at Sensible Earth. The reason that policy is very difficult to implement and we've seen this happen across, plastic is a much easier problem than textiles. Everyone on the panel here will probably agree with me, is that if you look at in the textile space, you look at the fiber manufacturers or the natural fiber, to spinning, to weaving, knitting, to processing, to garmenting, to fashion, to retail eventually, there are such deep silos that no one silo talks to the other. If you really talk to a spinning mill about fashion and the trends that are on and what's happening in Milan and Paris, they have very little idea. It's only after the shows or after the ITMA, the machinery exhibitions, will they look at and go and learn a few things, but they're very, very disconnected. So for any policy to be implemented is nearly impossible. What is necessary is for us to be able to create simple narratives and storytelling for people to understand what this textile thing is all about. And also 60% of textiles are plastic, of all the fibers produced in the world are plastic. So it's a much larger problem, which I don't think there is enough momentum or need in the policy space to implement any policy, because there's petrochemical companies at play. There's a lot of other stuff at play here.
Stories are trending. We are in a confessional era, and it's possibly a few years of telling a lot of good stories. However, we are going to need to lot more to survive through greenwashing and to sustain sustainability, whatever we may call it. You're 2 years old as a brand and you call it zero waste. What are the challenges you face? If somebody stood up and said, how can you call yourself zero waste? What do you have to show? Would you show the process?
Yeah, I in fact like it when my customers come to my studio and I tell them the whole story of the product end to end. So some of the challenges, I mean, when you say zero waste, starts really at sourcing itself for me. What I do is I collect old materials. It could be your t-shirt, it could be a sari, it could be your dress, it could be your clutter pile. When you clear out your closet, your trash is my treasure. Believe me, it is treasure. And we deconstruct all of that, sift all of that, and then we, get ready for the next output that is required. There are people who come to us and say, this is my trash, can you give me something great out of it? So that sourcing that is done is actually, finally we let them see how we are adding value to waste. One is that. So from zero waste, what you're talking about is, I actually tell them that nothing, even this dhaga can be used in adding a pattern. This bead that got left behind can be used. So we try and use every scrap of fabric. What gets left, we make coasters out of it. What gets left, we make something else out of it.
So it's a recycling ingenuity, if I understand correctly.
No, I'm sorry.
Is there more?
I'm sorry. It is repurposing. I really stress on that, and that is one big thing about sustainability, that the jargon takes away from its core meaning very often. This whole aspect of recycling, upcycling, reuse, repurpose. I repurpose. And so I have these issues of sourcing, taking away this aspect of negativity from what I do.
Why is recycling negative?
No, when I say repurposing, because somebody says, oh, you make this from waste. The minute you hear the word waste, it's a negative connotation. And you have to keep saying that it's not waste in that sense. It is jo reh gaya, what you don't need anymore, what you don't use anymore, what you got bored of it and you have had enough.
I think we have debate here.
Yeah, this overconsumption also.
Waste, is it a bad word?
I actually don't think waste is a bad word at all. I mean, the way we work at Verandas, as we try and grow the business and grow the brand, I think the challenge somebody like we face is that how do you do this at scale and keep being like net zero waste, right? It's very challenging as you get more. So waste, for me, our post-production, the dhars that we cut, everything, that is waste. That is post-production waste. We make our bags out of it for every garment. We have completely compostable packaging. Even internationally, we send all this packaging with the lot. And I know we have a carbon footprint because we ship internationally and all of that. But waste for me is not negative at all. We make other product out of it, and we also, the ends that don't make a product end up being made into fuel bricklets. We actually pay somebody to use that, make fuel bricklets, and then benefit from that and sell it on to the cement industry. I'm happy if somebody makes money in the middle, because it's a job of work to do. There is a process. So, and there's an industry behind it, right? Waste management. I mean, it's a fantastic industry.
Yeah, so, and there are courses on waste management.
I'm very curious about the waste management industry.
Probably as a
waste is looking at it from the customer's perspective. I'm looking at it from the customer. No, I have to convince some people. There is a mindset. I have all sorts of customers that come my way who I have to be very careful and say, waste. I agree. In fact, I say I'm adding value to it. Yeah. I say I'm making something else. Like I said, it goes down to the last thread. But to convince a customer who likes the piece of jewelry because it's exclusive, because whatever.
It's art. You're like creating art out of it.
But it's not everybody's perception.
Really?
You have to...
I'm going to taper this a bit, and Because what happens in greenwashing, and Apurva, since you rightly displayed some cynicism about the industry and what it does when I asked if you were greenwashed, is that the crafts narrative, the crafts and textile, is it takes an expanding domain to say, I am more sustainable than the plastic maker, whereas scientifically it cannot be proved. The crafts cluster may not have a waste welfare discipline, it may not be paying its women well, it might be exploiting people, wage parities may not be there, and plastic units may be doing that. Now, how does the consumer navigate through this? This is complex. Where do you stand on this?
There's just so many metrics, so many KPIs that you have to look at. If you look at the ESG framework and stuff as well, right? Are you looking at social aspects? Are you looking at environmental aspects? Within those social itself, is it equal pay? Is it fair pay? Is it safe conditions? This is what the challenge is for consumers, to distill through all this and say, what do I care about? Who do I believe, right? I know last year Shein said they're sustainable because they made 1100 styles which were organic. Fantastic, great. I don't think that helps anybody, right? But for us, it has been a challenge because we also do so many different aspects in sustainability that our challenge is communication. How do we get people to trust us? To say that we are not the same as H&M conscious, for example. And we've tried to, from our part at No Nasties, we've tried to simplify it with saying, at least with climate change, there's one metric. We're going to look at carbon footprint. We're going to see if all our conversations can come around that. And a conversation around zero waste comes under that as well. Because then you can say, making it zero waste, less wasteful, using resources from local craftsmen, all of that reduces your footprint, which is the biggest challenge. To quote from Game of Thrones, this is the biggest war of them all. So.
Yeah. Well, we have a senior journalist, Kimi Dangor, and Shimoy Bhattacharya, publicist and PR person. Both these views are very important in the greenwashing narrative. I'll come to that, invite spontaneous views. Before that, may I invite Anupama Dayal to join us for a poetry reading that re-alerts us to what we are talking about. Welcome, Anupama, and thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you, Shefali.
Also, just as we invited from every panelist asking, why would you do this and why not something else, your why is valuable as well. Why would you be okay with joining this panel? Did something touch you, engage you? Did the subject speak to you?
Nature has been my biggest love and my constant passion through all other passions all my life through. And just for this, I think it makes it all worthwhile. All of this conversation, listening to each person, each of them, you could see the passion for nature really coming through. And very simply, that's the reason why we're all here. We all love Mother Nature. And we must love Mother Nature.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's another beautiful day in beautiful Goa. I read an excerpt from Walt Whitman, from the poet In Nature. In this secluded spot, the soothing silence, far from the clank of crowds, away from books, away from art, the lesson learned, passed over. I stand or sit musing, thoughts that are hymns of the praise of things, largely learned from nature's schooling. Give me again, O nature, your primal sanities. Thou hast, O nature, elements, utterance to my heart beyond the rest. Underfoot, the divine soil, overhead, the sun. The cool breathed ground, the just gone sunset. I salute and I touch, and they touch me. I feel the sky, the prairie, stillness vast. I feel the ocean and I feel the forest. Somehow, I feel the globe itself, swift swimming in space. Never before did I get so close to nature. Absolute and unqualified acceptance of nature. And never before did she come so close to me. Amid this wild, free scene, how healthy, how joyous, how clean and vigorous and sweet. Hungering for primal energies and nature's dauntlessness. Nature nourishes, lulls me the way most needed. It seems indeed as if peace and nutriment from heaven subtly filter into me here in solitude with nature. The disturbed passion and feverish conflict subsided. Calm and cool, then my body becomes. My sane or sick spirit here as near at peace as it can be. All is peace here. I am satisfied. I will now read an excerpt from The Nutmeg's Curse by Amitav Ghosh. Parables from a Planet in Crisis. Exhaustion is a metaphor that occurs often in science fiction stories about terraforming. Swarms of aliens go off to conquer another planet because their own is exhausted. It is the same presumption that impels billionaires to plan the conquest of Mars now that Earth is exhausted. But it bears asking, what exactly is the Earth exhausted? What exactly is it exhausted by? The planet's riches may be depleted, but they are very far from being completely spent. And in any case, the imagining of Earth's exhaustion occurred long before the absolute depletion of its resources was even distantly envisaged as a possibility. Which is only to say that what the Earth is really exhausted of is not its resources at all. What it has lost is meaning. The Earth has lost its meaning. It can conquered, inert, supine, the Earth can no longer ennoble, nor delight, nor produce new aspirations. All it can now inspire in its would-be conqueror's mind is the kind of contempt that arises from familiarity. Over time, this contempt has come to be planted so deep within the cultures of modernity that it has become a part of its unseen foundations. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you, Anupama. The complexity and the nuance of the Nutmeg's Curse, if you were to read the book, and its cultural fragmentation in different continents and minds and regions. So complex is one part of what we are trying to sustain, but Sanjeev, you used a word simple in one of your answers, and you may have yourself forgotten it, but simple is a very attractive word. Can I request you to talk, how can we tell stories simply? How can we simplify I do not know what to call it. Let's say for now the sustainability narrative. If serendipity invites me next year, I promise to come with another word. How do we simplify this and say, मुझे सुनिए, मैं धरती का राग सुना रहा हूँ.
Simply, absolutely. I think that's. Let me split that into two parts. One is more the head. Second is more the heart. Years ago, we did a a case study at a business school in Switzerland, and it was called the intelligence pyramid. And you start with lots of data, and we've got lots of data on textiles and what's happening and sustainability and all of that. How do you turn that into information? How do you take that information into intelligence? And how do you eventually take that intelligence into decision making, yes or no? And I think that's the challenge that we have when it comes from, about greenwashing. And how do I really take a decision? Is this good for me or not good for me? Is this so much? I mean, there are certifications that I can't even pronounce, and I've seen it somewhere saying this has got to be good. But what does it really mean? I think the looking around this room when we started, and we've lost a few, but I am very hopeful because I see presence of the feminine. And when it comes to sustainability and the planet and the nature, it is about the feminine. It's about the love, compassion, care, kindness, empathy, which are very, very strong feminine traits. Men actually do not understand sustainability. Men don't understand the environment, the climate. We only understand consumption, destruction, plunder, and other words that I'd rather not use right now. But that's what we understand. It's the nurturing comes from the feminine. I think the ability, change has always taken place in this world with great storytelling, and I was really, very pleasantly, happy to see that Anupama is going to be joining and reading something here, because it's about the ability to create the narrative. We all live in a Twitterized world today where there's limited attention span. You give me a long story and I don't understand it. You give me a video, I want to fast track it, and I want to, do it 2x or maybe skip it, and we think we're informed. So there's too much information and too little attention span. But what does hold is storytelling, if it's in the written form through illustrations, very simple illustrations that are beautifully done, that kind of go into your subliminal, into your without really looking at it, is going through subliminal into your subconscious, and you're understanding that change through stories, through songs, through theater. I think those are really important for people to come out to understand. And when we go to schools to run some of the Makanaka campaigns, and we do some really funny stuff with our plastic monster who comes in and performs, the kids really get it, because they can see this plastic monster, Sammy Coelho, come out dressed as a plastic monster. And when if I'm doing the session, I say, where's all the plastic in this world? And then say it again, and then Sammy comes out and then scares the hell out of the kids, and then goes around, and then kids are able to see what plastic does. And these 8 to 14-year-olds have been incredible change makers because they understood what was happening with plastic and the impact of it.
That's simplifying it. Thank you. That was very well articulated. Before I come back to the panelists, I want to talk about profit, because we are not just selling stories. We have to earn money, right? You all are making brands that must sell. So we come to that. Before that, Shrimoy, please indulge me and my curiosity. PR is so germane to how this narrative is going to be made. How do you, or what do you think about how your clients should be advised in what they should not do and how they should do it?
Thank you, Shefali. I haven't prepared for this question. And as I was jokingly sharing with Apurva, there's nothing very sustainable about me. But on a more serious note, I think Apurva brought it up. Communication is critical. And the challenge that we face today is that customers cannot read through the communication. It's not clear to them, and therefore, they don't even know when they're being greenwashed. So you walk around, you see the word natural, sustainable, organic. I mean, how do you see through all of it? And in fact, I was going to flip the question to all of you. How do you ensure that your customer reads through greenwashing? How do we protect the other side of the fence? So that's very critical. And I think that today spelling it out is critical. and I don't think that quite happens because of the fact that we are using fancy words, and I hope sustainable or any other words go away simply because a lay customer doesn't understand what that means. It says nothing, So I think critical to spell it out. That would be my one sole message.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Shimoy, because that's exactly how I try to educate my customer. Take away the jargon completely. I speak to them as a layperson, and with every piece of necklace that goes out in reusable cloth bags, there is a little note that I add. I congratulate them for joining my drive to do something for the planet. Makes them feel good that they're doing their little bit in their small way. And I have a little card that I put into every packet that says your jewelry was made using 3 beads that came from somebody's necklace, 4 coins, 5. So I break down the elements of that piece so that they know what's gone into it. And I try to simplify it, so that they know they're not being greenwashed and that they're truly being part of that sustainable journey, right? Thank you.
Kimi, can I ask you, involve you here, and I'll come to you, Apurva. As a journalist, I feel often deceived, sometimes bewildered when brand after brand, Raksha Bandhan hai to sustainability, Karwa Chauth hai to sustainability. I mean, tomorrow the pedicure is sustainable on a Women's Day, and it leaves you feeling, I don't know, how does it leave you feeling, and what do you do?
So unfortunately, whether we like it or not, sustainability per se and greenwashing is more of a grey area than anything else. I think it's grey washing more than anything else. Whichever way you look at it, from the customer's point of view, from the journalist's point of view, or from the designer's point of view, it is still a conversation we are having in very small rooms, very exclusive clique of people talking about it. We'll be at Fashion Week talking about Fashion Week. The person on the road doesn't really care. They don't understand sustainability. I think it's about talking about mindful buying, mindful selling. And like she said, it's about telling the right kind of stories. I know for a fact that we are inundated with everybody who claims, we've used this particular organic fabric, so our brand is sustainable. And fashion weeks are not able to bifurcate between that as well.
Or qualify or filter the debate.
Exactly. Because very often we found designers who don't qualify from any angle. Like, somebody will come as a sustainability designer and is using a color that does not exist in nature. You know that it's a chemical color. And you're like, why is this person showing on Sustainability Day? Because that color doesn't exist. What did you get it from? So these are questions you ask. Most often you don't get answers. And also designers are bewildered, right? Like I've spoken to designers over the years. Somebody like a Soham Shah will tell you, he works with natural fabrics, natural processes. He dries his clothes out in the sun. He will not use dryers. But he tells you that every time we decide to incorporate something new, we need to get a certification. We are paying for it. And every time we pay for it, it transfers to our customer. And customers will say, why would I buy this outfit? Why would I pay for one outfit? So my question is that as well, how do we make mindful clothes, I won't say sustainable clothes, mindful clothes more accessible? How can people more people afford it?
It's a volley of questions, and yes, I think Apurva had something to say, and then here is yours. Please.
If you don't mind, I'm going to address the previous point first. The challenge we keep saying is communication, but a solution does exist. When we talk about the food industry, right, there's no more claim saying, oh, this is less calories or this is more calories. By law, every packaged food has nutrition facts. You know how to compare, right? You want less sugar or more sugar, Parle G or Britannia. You know how to compare, right? You know how much mono is saturated fats, unsaturated fats, all of that. That is data, and it's in our regulations, in our laws, that you have to report that before you can sell it. Imagine doing that with clothing, right? That's what we need to do. Every piece of clothing should have what the ingredients are, where it's made, how many wages were paid, what is the carbon footprint of that. Then there's no more claims saying, oh, this is more eco-friendly than not. The data is there, right? We can do this. Do we have the willpower to do it? There's a lot of people who are going to lose a lot of money if they have to be sustainable, right? But why not, right? If we ask that question as consumers, that I want this data, we can kind of go past greenwashing and force the brands to walk the talk.
Thank you. Very well said. So, Sanjeev, after you, Anjali, both of you have something to say. I have 5 minutes for audience questions. I promise the organizers I will close on time. We have 5 minutes to 5.
I'm gonna say this carefully and as briefly as I can. Is that any decision to buy new clothes is not sustainable in any way at all. You can have any label on it. You can say anything on it. It's not sustainable. Number one. Number two is that the problem that there is. I've spent half my life in this space and the fashion weeks around the world, and the lack of understanding that people have in the fashion space from what really fibers and what it takes to produce and what it takes to spin and what are the wastes throughout is none at all. I think it's impossible to be able to create any kind of a label, and Apurva, I'm going to disagree with you on that the food labels are extremely contentious. There's still stuff emerging all the time. There is so much that's hidden in there. It's large companies like Kraft and everyone else who've mastered this. In textiles, it's impossible. I think what we really need to do is to be able to figure out, deepen the seeking in people. I think the solution may not be here in front of us right now, but the seeking has to happen. People have to come out and really see what is it, where is it coming from, what's gone into this. Do I need to buy something new? Can I not buy this? Can I do something else with it?
So, Sanjeev, I know your point of view is sort of like the nirvana point of view. I'm not there yet. I love fashion.
We are in the business of selling clothes.
I'm in the business of selling clothes. I love fashion myself. For me, I think to answer Srimoy's point, I think I would be a bit on Apurva's side to say, as designers and creators of a consumable product, it's one thing to not consume it at all. This is a whole different debate. But as a designer of a consumable product, what you put out there on your label, and every single veranda garment goes through a testing process. We have testing certificates to back up every single garment label. We have our ESG, like a QR code on it. We would like to get our carbon footprint on it once that analysis is done for the brand. So I think for a lay person, to answer your question, if you can just kind of put that on blockchain, or just have a simple QR code that would just pop up and tell you, okay, what am I buying at a base level? Then going into the fiber debate to say, okay, we're using Eco-Vero now, is that really responsible? Is that not responsible? That is the next level of education from the customer perspective, because today I am not running that plant, right? I'm procuring it from the best vendor that I see that's out there from the supply chain. So from the policy angle, so I know you'd mentioned something about policy. So I think the policy makers can maybe drive the chemical industry, some change there. But as a designer who has a limited set of resources to inputs to select from, when I say limited, I mean in the conscious world, relatively. Now so I think telling your customer what you're putting into it, it's very important. How you put it has to be sort of responsible. And to Kimmy's point, Kimmy's known me a long time. I think there is some lack of education about artisanal, handmade, what is sustainable looking. If something is Khadi-ish, people think that it should be on sustainable fashion. It's a conversation I have with these guys all the time. Today we digitally print. We do it to use less water. We make sure that the digital printing plant has a water treatment plant. We go there ourselves. We use azo-free dyes. We use Huntsman dyes. Other options are 10 times cheaper. The point is that we produce consciously. So I think, what is your definition of sustainability? Is it natural? Are you trying to is it Textile Day? Is it Support the Artisan Day? There's 5 different elements, right? It's a framework. So I think once the definition is out there as to what is Sustainable Fashion Day, and then do you fall in those parameters, it's a conversation that consumers need to know.
We've been actually wrangling with it for years, including.
So I feel very strongly.
But can I invite one audience question at least? I'm sorry we took a lot of time, and anybody wants to ask any panelist a question, you're welcome. Please raise your hand. There's one at the back. Yes. Sir, kindly tell us who would you like your question to be answered by?
No, I don't know the panelists that well, but I'll share what I know of. I am myself in the export business. We also claim, inverted commas, claim to be a sustainability-led company. We supply to a lot of international brands, and we go through an extremely rigorous testing and audits and all kinds of things. And I myself have invited to be on panels in the trade shows in Frankfurt and things, and I will be there on one such panel in 2 months. I wanted to share something which is the reality of what we face as export business, dealing with brands like Zara, H&M, and so on. So as you know, all of us have just heard that the testing, the whole idea of testing itself, you test one sample, then you supply 10,000 pieces. Nobody is looking at where the 10,000 pieces are coming from. The brands put an extreme amount of pressure. They call us at the Oberoi Hotel in Delhi and say 500 things, and when you ask them one question, they don't know nothing. So there is just the sort of narrative that is coming down from the CEO of Inditex. They'll come and give us some gyan, and then they will just put it on the vendor. They only push. They don't want to pay a dime extra. They don't want to contribute nothing to nothing. So they, as we said, I love the statement of the gentleman. So if you're buying something new, it's already not sustainable. So then how are we, is there somebody who knows how do we get the authenticity of testing, production? So it is a huge process, and yes, it will be driven by, it'll take decades to get to the consumers and all. And in the reality of greenwashing is reality, is reality.
Truth
and if
be
somebody
told,
knows better, then I would like to know.
Well, there are so many micro aspects of this in the macro situation, but perhaps, if not much, this panel has helped drive the macro idea that something is not quite right, how it can be right, and we are looking at it. And can I ask one or two words from each of you as your closing thoughts? It's 5 p.m. Apurva, I have made it to the deadline, and we start in the school Marmish way from Apurva to Sarita.
The power lies with the consumer. You guys, everyone wants the best thing. We want organic. We want to make sure it's no child labor, nothing, all of it. I keep it short. There's a million things we want. We also want proof. And we also want it at $3.99 a t-shirt.
I will just end by saying, I think being conscious, I don't like the word sustainability. To be conscious, it's expensive to create conscious product. It is on the consumer. The isme kya hai question, it's a loaded question. Every time we have a product, people say, par isme kya hai? So it's a loaded question, and I think from the consumer's point of view, you have to be able to step back and say, okay, isme kuch hai, and when I'm able to pay for it or own it, we can't actually start a sub-brand or a mass brand in India, which we would love to, because right now the math just doesn't add up. The way we produce, it just doesn't add up. And I would love, as that question came from that gentleman at the back, I would love to know how you can make something for $3.99 that's conscious today in the way, in the world we operate.
At least we now know it's not. So
it's really not.
I have tremendous hope and faith and belief that we will stop buying. We will. Human beings have a tremendous propensity to change and to survive. And I think the moment our survival, our core survival, which is at stake today, more and more people that get aware of it, the more we will change around really fast. So I have tremendous hope. I think we will be able to. My dream is that no new fibers are produced in this world. no new cotton or is grown, no wood pulp is cut for viscose. That's my hope. And we have enough fibers in this world to last us many generations. And we have enough technology to regenerate and recycle and reuse. So that's my hope. And I believe that we'll do it.
Sarita, closing remarks from
I
you.
think it'll be very simple, going with where Sanjeev started with saying the fact that you want to buy an outfit or a dress is you're not being sustainable. I would go ahead and say I think each one of us sitting here needs to be responsible for the end life of a product, even before you think of buying a product. What have you done with what you have? That is my first thought, and I would like each one of you to walk away with this thought that do you want a place, do you want to be in a world that will be a better place, or do you want to be in a place that will be a better world? Thank you.
While you were all speaking, I had a few words crossing my mind. They are Hindi words. I'll close with them. I don't know if I can even do it again, and my mind will support me. I'll try.
Are they from Delhi?
The words are from they are from a Sindhi's mind. Maybe they went to Delhi a bit. Sthapana, establishment, establishing what you want. Sthirta, stability. Satartata, again being there, insightful, aware. Santulan, Sundarta and Shanti. Some of these might help simplify storytelling. Thank you very much, panelists, and a wonderful audience. Thank you, Serendipity. They didn't seem like they came from Delhi.
Because the Delhi ones are not legit.
Yes, group photo, please. Yes, please.
That's lovely.
If I can say it again, I'll try. It just crossed my mind.
That's core of our philosophy in this land.